What up, IDS Mob? It's your boy here, Wilmington here. So, I've started to notice something that's happening in the media, and they're pushing this narrative, basically that anytime you as a man say or do something that hurts a woman's feelings, you should be chastised for it and basically banished, as if to say that what you're doing is wrong. And I want to talk about this because this is definitely relevant to you in your dating experience. A lot of men today are very fearful of being able to say to a woman a truth. Or when women come to us and ask our opinion of things, we've had the experience of when we give them our honest opinion or truth of something, then they get offended by it, they get hurt, and therefore we are made to feel as though we are supposed to be demonized for said thought. Now, the way this came about in this particular conversation is, as you know, I am a fan of watching The Bachelorette. In this season, they have two bachelorettes on, which has made it interesting for purposes of trying to find a mate, because initially they had it where they have a bunch of guys there, and then both women are, talking to these various guys, and then they're trying to choose which guy they want. But in that kind of scenario, the men also have the option of saying, hey, to one of the women, I actually prefer the other one over you. And so this has happened a few times now. But in this last episode, or at least the one that happened last week, because there's a new one this week. But what happened last week was one of the women, Gabby, she had like three back-to-back guys that each told her that they were actually interested in the other woman, Rachel. Okay? And when they told her this, how she responded to it basically was, oh my gosh, this guy said he doesn't like me, he prefers Rachel. He's now hurt my feelings because he said that, I'm a little rough around the edges, or well, he just has a better connection with Rachel, and so he's not feeling me. And so rather than take the truth of that and say, okay, these guys just aren't feeling me, it is what it is, she took it to mean as they were insulting her, they were putting her down, and she went to Rachel and was all like, well, these guys, they just made me feel a certain way, and oh my God, and they just said these horrible things, when all they were basically saying was, hey, I appreciate the fact that you want to get to know me more, but I'm not really interested in you, I want somebody else. Now, to be fair, most women don't have to face this. Like, the majority of women out there are the ones that are doing the rejecting of us. We are the ones usually in the dating world that have to adjust very early on to the idea that it's going to be a numbers game, because as well-meaning as we think we are, if we try to approach 100 women, we're lucky if maybe 10 of them want to go out with us. So we learn very early on to take rejection, and we're told time and time again, what? Not to take rejection personally. And I think that's actually a good way to look at things, because realistically, you can't get every single shot that you shoot, And I think a lot of women have been brought up to believe that because they consider themselves 10s and, all men are going to want them, that most of the time in their lives, they're not actually facing rejection. So when a guy actually rejects them, it's like the worst thing in the world. So now combine that with, on this show, where three guys back to back rejected this woman. And by the end, she was all frantic and crying, and she didn't want to give a rose at the part where she's supposed to give the rose of the night to somebody, because it was just like, I'm just too distraught, blah, blah, blah. So Rachel feels all bad for her, but then come to the rose ceremony, and now the same thing happens to Rachel. There are three guys that she wants to give a rose to, and their response is, well, I'm actually really wanted to go with Gabby. So then, after this happens to her like twice, she takes Gabby with her to the back to the producers, and it's like, oh my God, like they did it this way, by the way, because they thought, they didn't like the way that the guys were now having the power to choose them. That's what they actually said. So they wanted to put the power back in their hands by splitting it up and being able to choose individual guys to follow them on their journey. Again, not taking into account, those guys can still say no. So yeah, so she's back there saying, this really hurt my feelings, and this person rejected me, and I felt embarrassed by it. So because she got embarrassed, quote unquote, on national TV by a guy simply saying to her, hey, I don't want you, I'm choosing this girl over here, Now she's extremely offended. This guy did the most horrible thing ever. Okay? Now, how does this relate to your dating life? Well, it's because, again, there's going to be times when you're going to say something to a woman, or you're going to do things that are for the betterment of you and your mental health or whatever, and a woman might take that offensively. Now, before I continue, I want to add the caveat that yes, for women that are watching this, we know there are guys out there that are going to purposely do and say the wrong things to you. They're going to trick you. They're going to manipulate you. And those guys are ones that should equivocally not be the ones that deserve your love at all, okay? So we're going to put those guys to the side. Yes, we know they exist. But back to the conversation here. For the guys out there, if you're a guy whereby a woman comes to you and asks your opinion and you give her your honest truth about something in a nice way where you're saying, these are just my thoughts on things, and her response is to call you out and say, that's not a thing, and that's being offensive, and you're being misogynistic, and that's it, and it's simply because she has a difference of opinion, then I got news for you, guy. That woman is not well equipped to be able to handle different points of view, and she's probably a woman that up until meeting you has gotten away with getting her way her entire life. On top of, most guys that women date train them to think that they're always right. So if they come against you and you're starting to spout ideas or things that aren't to her liking, she may very well fight against you. When this happens, gentlemen, this is the time where you got to be strong. You got to be able to stand up on your own 2 feet and say, this is the thing I believe, this is what I stand for. No, this activity that I want to do is not harmful to you or me in any way, shape, or form, so I'm going to do it. Or if it is harmful, hey, I've research the risk of what this activity is, and I'm still gonna do it. And if you're mad at me, so be it. And there have been plenty of men throughout history that have had to, stand up to the women and say, hey, I know I gotta think about the civil rights movement, like I gotta go fight this fight. You could get killed or shot by the police. Well, you know what? I know that could happen, but I gotta go do this thing. Whether you're mad at me or not, I'm sorry, I gotta go out and handle my business. And as a man, ultimately, your goals, your dreams, handling your business should be more important than if these things are going to hurt your woman's feelings. Again, assuming these things aren't actually harmful to society and aren't harmful to her specifically, okay? But recognize that there are going to be times, especially because men and women view things differently at times, there's going to be things that you're going to have to do, or things that you have to say that a woman maybe wouldn't do. There are plenty of fathers, for example, that handle their kids a different way in terms of like the physicality of handling their kids, or talk to their kids in a certain way that a woman may not do. And those women may come to those guys that they're with and say, hey, I don't like that you're talking about kids, blah, 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 blah. And those guys in that moment have to say, but this is how I need to do it. This is the best way that I know as a man how to do this thing. And again, you may have a different viewpoint of it, but in my eyes, this is not a harmful thing, and here's why, and go with it, okay? And here's the thing too. Most women actually want a guy like that, that's gonna be able to stand up to her and be able to have his goals and ideas and things that he fully believes in, that she can't sway. Because for her own safety, if harm's coming to the family, you can't be a person that sways. But she's gonna test this early on by at times trying to rattle you, or trying to say, you said this thing to me and it hurt my feelings, and here's what this is, blah, blah, blah. And again, if you actually said some stuff that maybe had foul language in it, or called her out her name, those things you should not be doing. But if you're simply stating ideas or saying to her, hey, if she comes to you one day and says, hey, what do you think of my hair? And your response is, do you want me to be honest? And she says, yeah. And you say, well, there are other hairstyles of yours that I like that are better than others. Some women might say, oh my God, you shouldn't say that to women ever, blah, 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 blah. Well, then don't ask us. Because you as a guy need to always be able to be truthful and speak your truth and not be fearful of it. If you're with a woman that is making you either A, be fearful of being able to tell your truth, or B, tries to fight you every time you are telling a truth that isn't in the grand scheme of things a big deal or harmful, then you might want to consider that that woman has work to do on herself, and that you may want to find a mate that is not going to be as, I'll say, pushbacky on that stuff. And they are out there. I know it's a hard road, guys, because we oftentimes think there's no good women out there, or all women are going to think that men are just dogs, or that men just have stupid opinions about things, or just live life in a different way that they do, therefore it's the wrong way to live life. And I'm telling you, there are women out there that have a good head on their shoulders, that come from good families, that when you spout an idea that's different from theirs, they'll want to have a conversation about it versus just calling out your name or saying that you're wrong or trying to demonize you until you ideally have her thought, in which point she's not going to respect you in the first place, okay? But yeah, I saw this last week's episode and a few episodes now of this row of Bachelorette shows where it's just been like, these women are just getting so butthurt about simple stuff like, hey, so there's one episode where this guy, the other guys in the house got on him because he simply said that if he made it to fantasy suites, which is basically the code word for the time where there's like 3 or 4 contestants left and the people on the shows are now given the okay to hook up, all right? So all this guy said to the other guys in the house was, if I made it to the final 4 and I was the first one up and we had fantasy suites whereby we ended up hooking up and then she hooked up with somebody else after me, then that would turn me off. That's literally all he said. And, you know, the rat guys in the show, they went to the women and said, oh my God, he said this thing about, he's already thinking about fantasy suites and blah, 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 blah. So they confronted him. And he said, I'm a guy that thinks about things all the way to the end. So as part of the process of The Bachelorette, I could conceivably make it to the end. What would that entail? That would entail going through fantasy suites. And I basically said, yeah, if I found out after we hooked up that you hooked up with somebody else, then I'd feel some kind of way about that. And they kicked him off the show. Now, let's rewind back to these 2 chicks season where they were with this guy Clayton, and they got mad at Clayton. Why? Because he ended up sleeping with all 3 of the remaining bachelorettes. I think that all 3 were the last 2, but anyway, the 2 that are on the show this season, he slept with both of them, and then they found out about it and got really mad at him because, oh, how could you sleep with her and sleep with me also? But then fast forward to this show, and this guy says, yeah, if that were to happen, I'd be mad. And now they want to kick him off the show because they disagree with him. They're saying, oh, that's so controlling. How dare you not allow us to what? To sleep with multiple men? Like you're mad that a guy's saying, I want to be your one and only person you sleep with? And whether they agree with him or not, the point is, that's not a bad position to be at for dating. So the fact that they were, again, just goes to show you that some women out there are just like, if a guy disagrees with me at all, I'm going to fight him on it. I'm going to tell him he's wrong. I'm going to kick him out of my life. I'm going to make sure he feels demonized for it. And again, I stress, those are not the kind of women you want to get with, okay? So just know that, guy. Don't be afraid of women. I've been there myself where I've been in relationships where I was trying to be truthful with women and they would come back at me and cry and yell and scream. And so I just learned not to be honest. And it would eat me up inside because I'd want to be honest, but I'd know that I'm with the person that's going to freak out for me being honest. And just like I talk to you guys, like, I talk in a calm, cool voice. I say, hey, this is my opinion on this thing. And I always say, this is my opinion, but I'm open to hearing what you have to say about it. Whether we agree or disagree in the end, no harm, no foul, but at least I want to be able to get this out and not feel some kind of way about it, you know? And so if you're finding yourself fighting with women that you're with over that, again, there are women out there that will cause you less stress, that if you spout a different opinion or view or you give her your true opinion on something, will be able to take that. Not all the time, but at the very least, they won't think that you're completely evil for having a different viewpoint, okay? So find those women, find ones with good hair on their shoulders. I find, honestly, women that come from 2-parent households who lived in a house where the parents were happy with each other and also like they treated their kids well, typically are well-balanced women. And they are out there. They may be a little harder to find, but I can promise you they are out there. So anyway, I just wanted to come on camera and say that because I'm watching this week's Bachelorette and I'm already pissed off and it reminded me of what I want to talk about this week. But anyway, if you have any questions or comments you want to talk about on this show, leave them in the comments down below or write to me at harrywilmington@gmail.com. Also, if you're looking to get some one-on-one phone coaching, then go to the coaching tab at introvertdatingsuccess.com. Also, guys, if this has been helpful to you in any capacity and you want to leave a monetary thank you, you can either go to the website and click on the tip jar tab, or apparently you can leave like money from YouTube now. Like that's somebody leave me $10 this week. And thank you very much. I was glad I was able to help you out with your situation, but I appreciate the monetary support as well. So yeah, you guys can do that on YouTube now too because I'm monetized. It's freaking awesome. Anyway, I'm Harry Wilmington and I'll catch you guys on the next episode. I'm out. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Introvert Dating Success Podcast. Visit us at introvertdatingsuccess.com for more great tips on attracting women using your natural introvert charm. Oh, yeah.